Okay, we will call to order the Town of Ashford Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for our regular meeting for Tuesday, November 12th, 2024, starting at 7:02. We have a good schedule and quite a number of people on, so we'll get down to business. Calling to order and the seating of alternates. If we're still seeing as I see it, I would like to seat Doug for Janet. And Steve's not here, and I think Alex is still not here. So just mentioning Richard and Jeff. All right. Very good. Item number 2, approval of minutes of our well, the minutes were submitted October 15th, but the meeting was from, I believe, October. Was it the 11th or the 9th? Our meeting. I don't have a calendar in front of me. Figures.
The second Tuesday, because it got moved, so I believe it was the 15th.
Oh, it was at the 15th. Oh, that just seems late. I'm sorry. Okay, so looking for approval of the minutes from October 15th, 2024. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Tom. Is there a second?
I'll second that. Nord.
Nord. Thank you, Nord. Any discussion? Changes, corrections, errors caught? Hearing none, I seek that please approve the minutes from the October 15th meeting by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Abstentions?
Luther abstain.
Luther abstaining. Thank you, Luther. So moved. Okay, very good. Item number 3, public comments. Again, limited to topics or items not otherwise listed on the agenda. To fully define that, as we've had some requests regarding interpretation of that statement. It's limited to items not already on the agenda, specifically items that are identified for a hearing, because we will have our discussion during the hearing. There will be opportunity for public comment, and there should be no further discussion outside of that public hearing. And also applications pending to the commission are a couple of items that are off the table for discussion, but we are open to receiving any other public comment on any other items. And you can raise your hand electronically or wave at me if you're a picture. Might be a little tough. I have to jump between 2 pages here. Okay, hearing and seeing nothing for public comment, we will move on. Bills, receipt of bills. Mark or Mike, anything to report?
No.
Nope.
Right. Okay, thank you very much. I received none either. Correspondence.
The only correspondence additional that I have is the information I provided to you for the additional application to be received.
Right. Okay, and we will, once we get through this, we will go through adding that to the agenda. Okay, very good for correspondence. So what I would ask of the commissioners is a motion to put onto the agenda at this point a receipt of an application for PZ 24-5 subdivision app conversion of agricultural lot to a building lot on Armitage Road, map 7-C-4.1 and 4.2. The owner applicant is M. Rigetti. So seeking to put that into the agenda. Do I have a motion from anyone?
I'll put a motion, Mark Schnobel.
Mark, thank you, Mark. Is there a second?
I'll
Second.
Second from Jerry. Thank you. All those in favor of adding this to the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Abstentions? So moved. Okay, so again, this is a motion to receive an application and for, again, PZ-24-5, a subdivision app for the conversion of an agricultural lot to a building lot. Mike, have all fees been paid?
Yes, fees have been paid, the application and materials have been submitted, and it was approved by Wetlands at their meeting last week, which is what we were waiting on.
Okay, very good. So is there a motion to receive this application to review for our next meeting?
Motion to.
Thank you, Jerry. Is there a second?
I'll second Luther.
Thank you, Luther. All those in favor of receiving this application, please signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed? Abstentions? So moved. That'll be on the agenda for next week. Or excuse me, next month. Next month. Sorry. Yeah, you didn't know we were going to 2 times a month, guys? That came up. Okay, that leads us to the meat and potatoes of our meeting tonight, the public hearing. We have 2 hearings scheduled, and for both of those, a couple of things. I'd like to remind all commissioners that the hearing is to gain information and hear testimony from both the public as well as the applicant. At no time is a commissioner to offer an opinion, a personal opinion, regarding the result or the outcome. We are simply gaining information at this point. The hearings will run as follows. The applicant will present to the chair and the commission. The commission members will have the opportunity to ask questions and to seek information from the applicant. The public will then be asked to provide testimony. The public is asked to address the commission only, not the applicant. Once that is completed, once the public comment and public testimony has been completed, the applicant will have a chance for a final comment regarding their application before the commission. Any questions? Seeking. Very good. Okay. First item for public hearing is PZ-24-3, special permit application per section 300-17C for a farm brewery and eatery, private event space, and overnight guest accommodations at 317 Bennington Road, aka Crooks Orchard. Owner, applicant, Ben and Olivia Lacey. So to start, we will open it up to the Lacey's or their representative to talk to us about the application.
Can you hear us?
We can hear you.
Okay. So we want to be able to,
I'm sorry. Could you just I don't see you, and for Valerie, could you just identify yourself, please?
this is Ben Lacey.
Thank you.
All set?
All set. Go ahead.
All right. So we would like to be able to brew hard cider there, be able to sell it there. We'd like to have some events. We'd like to ask for 12 outdoor events. And we would like to be able to set up a tent in that area on the map. I think there was some confusion with the size of what we want to do. That's on the map. It's just showing the amount of square footage we have there. And that would just be a tent for up to 12 outdoor events. In the back, we wanted to build a bathroom in the back just for, it's so far away from everything when we're harvesting. And then, excuse me.
This is Olivia. I'll take over. He needs a moment. So the back where we were talking about basically glamping. We need to provide housing for seasonal workers for certain times of the year. And what we would like to do is set up a very small situation. We're talking about 3 gypsy wagon style campers. They would, the cabins or campers themselves would not have running water in them. They would be have solar powered electricity. We would then like to put together a very small building which would house a common bathroom and a very small kitchen. Once that is not in use for our seasonal help, we would then like the opportunity to be able to rent that out. Let's see. Okay. Did you talk about outdoor events?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, so that was, I'm sorry, I'm just going over my notes here. The eatery.
Yeah, the eateries.
So the eatery was something, we don't actually have plans for the eatery at this point, but it was something that we would like to try to get approved for if down the road we would, it evolves into serving food from the orchard. At this point, our main objectives were the cidery and tasting room, hosting outdoor events, public and private outdoor events, and the seasonal help housing.
Okay. Anything else just to share with us?
No, pretty much.
Okay.
I did just want to elaborate a little bit on the outdoor events. So these are not necessarily large events, but it's pretty common. Most of the orchards in this area have things like fall festivals or, seasonal events that promote people coming to the orchard. And it's actually detrimental to us at this point if we can't have those events because we're losing business when all those orchards are having events and people are going there instead of, coming to Crooks because we're not able to host that sort of thing yet. As far as noise with outdoor events, we're not saying that every event would have music, but there would definitely be ways to,
Contain the noise.
contain the noise with acoustic paneling. There's curtains, there's the walls for if the event was tented, and that all provides and acts as sound barriers. You did touch on 12 outdoor events.
Yeah, we really don't want to overwhelm the place. We think 12 is plenty for a year.
Is there anything else you want to add to that?
No, I'm sure people have questions. We can answer them then.
Okay.
Okay. Very good. Thank you very much. We've had the materials from the last meeting when we accepted the application, so I'm hoping most of the commissioners have had an opportunity to review. And I will open it up to the commissioners at this point for questions for the Lacey's.
I have a question about the portable housing for the seasonal workers. For sanitary, just showers and toilet.
What's your question, Jerry?
what they have for toilets and, showers for the people to use.
That was the bathhouse we want to build in the back.
Okay,
And that was the thought process was they're there for a pretty short time. So we'd have that for them to use. And it kind of made sense, if it kind of turned into that, it would be nice to be able to use those trailers in that bathhouse if people wanted to stay and, experience the farm.
okay.
Okay, Jerry?
Okay.
All right. Anyone else of the commissioners?
Jeff, do you want me to pull up the site plan?
I was gonna say that. I was hoping most of the commissioners had reviewed, but yeah, pull that up and we'll go to Luther. Go ahead, Luther.
Okay, hey folks, so this is Luther Brauk. Just a couple of questions. I did have an opportunity to review the materials. And bear with me if I'm not viewing the materials appropriately. I just wanted to clarify a couple of questions with the markup that was presented. I see an area that's designated with some shading of 155 by 140 and another area that's sort of a dog leg that is designated with another shading on the markup. I was just trying to get some clarification when we're talking about I'm assuming that these are the areas that are being referenced in terms of hosting of events and locating of the seasonal housing for ag workers and locating of the common area shared resources for that same housing. But I just was hoping that you could clarify that assumption for me and walk me through that a little bit more.
All right, so the purple was the old horse arena that we kind of reclaimed back to like a hayfield. So that would be where we'd want to set up a tent. It's just kind of perched up high there, and it would just be a nice place to do stuff. The other area next to that was just an area showing some square footage for overflow parking if we needed it. It's just another big flat field. The yellow is all the parking area that's gravel. The red box there, that was where the house was that they tore down. So, excuse me. We were thinking that would be a good place to, rebuild a tasting room and a place to brew the cider.
Okay. For some reason, the markup that's posted online did not have that red box on it. So I hadn't seen that. So that is helpful.
And then in the back, you'd have to zoom out a little bit. If you have the whole map, there's a existing well back there. And there's an old, like a horse running. And right by that well is where we wanted to build a bathroom.
And where is that in reference to what we're viewing on our screen?
It's out.
It's not on the screen.
Oh, it's not on there.
No, it doesn't look like it. It is the back orchard. It's
pretty far back, Luther.
Probably like a half mile.
Mike, if you pull up the TIF file site plan, that has the entire lot, and you could see the well and the shed noted.
I'm trying to go to an aerial to see if that would be easier for people. So tell me if you think this would be easier.
The photograph,
Back farther. You got to zoom out more.
So it's not far enough out.
I don't think the photograph catches it, but Ben can confirm.
No, you got to go out more.
All right, let me go to the other one. Some of them are TIFs and some of them are PDFs.
It would be to the east.
Yeah, I pulled up the the TIF as Doug suggested, and I do see the location of the well. So you're talking about, just to be clear, you're talking about a pretty significant setback.
Yes,
Oh, yeah. Well, the problem is that's a long walk back, so when they're out there picking, it just seems like it would be a good idea to have a place for them to.
Are you seeing that now, guys?
Yes. Yes,
So right in the middle, I can zoom in, but I'm trying not to.
you're good. You're good.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and that's over 1,000 feet from the road. In terms of setback.
And I'm sorry, this is Chairman Silversmith. If did I miss where the caravans, the glamping, uh whatever you want to call them, would be in relation to that?
Well, the thought process was they're on trailers, so we could just put them wherever we wanted.
but it would be close to that.
Yeah, it would be close to that,
So
within
that they
walking
can access
distance.
that,
Yeah.
So are those non-permanent structures?
Yeah, there should be pictures. Mike, did you have a picture?
Yeah, I saw the photos. I just wasn't sure if they were considered non-permanent structures, if they maintain their registered status as vehicles. How
No,
they're to be portrayed or perceived in terms of how they land within our purview.
they were just built on trailers, so you could move them wherever. They had campers there before.
Oh, yeah, the mini houses. Okay. Very nice.
That, they're not gonna have sinks and stuff in there. That's just an example of one that the gentleman built.
Okay.
But these aren't gonna be like, we want them to be pretty nice, and we think that anybody that would pay to stay there would be pretty respectful.
And do you have a total quantity in mind?
I mean, I was gonna throw 3 out there, just definitely not more than 3, and I don't even know if we would do 3, but I just think I'd rather ask for 3 and do 1 or 2,
So 3 is your maximum.
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
And would those be considered an occupancy of 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, I don't mean to hijack questioning. I'm happy
No,
to
go right ahead. You've got the floor. Go ahead, Luther.
uh, to pivot quickly to the outdoor events, just to help understand a little bit about the scale and scope of what you're envisioning those might be. So do you have a projected upper limit of number of persons that the event space could accommodate?
Well, I mean, I would assume it could accommodate quite a few, but I don't think if we're talking like a private event, if you look at the average wedding in 23, it was about 115 people. I would think it would be nice. I don't even know what people would want to do there. So I would think for a big, a tented event outdoors, maybe 200 people.
That would be a public event, I would think.
But yeah,
Thank you for bringing that up, Ms. Lacy. I guess that was my question also. Again, not to hijack and jump on what you were saying, Luther, but since we're dealing with this issue, so to a public event is something that you folks hold. What you were talking about with festivals and things like that, and yeah, providing your fruit and your cider and whatever other products and things that you do, entertainment, whatever it is. And then there would be private events also, is what you're saying.
Yes.
And you would see your public events of servicing up to 200 people and your private events more like that 100 to 150. I don't want to put words in your mouth. I'm just trying to get a handle on what we're looking at.
Yeah, and I have a question on your opinion. What would be the difference in a busy day at the farm and a public event?
And you mean a private event?
No, a public event. Like I'm trying to like draw a line in the sand and see, as far as what would be considered a public event versus just a busy day at the farm when there's 100 or 150 people there.
I guess that would be our question to you, because one, it's not our farm, and two, you should have a handle on what it is that you can accommodate.
Oh, I mean, we could accommodate a lot of people. I guess.
People just showing up is not accommodating. Accommodating is having the materials available to handle them, the parking, and the traffic flow, along with, not having, I guess, not having huge long lines at everything. You're trying to make an event that people find enjoyable, not having to get a fast pass at Disney. So, Luther, you have your hand up?
And again, I don't know if this is within the scope of our appropriate interpretation or not, but when I think about what a differential would be between normal scope of business and what a privately held event would be, it would be something that's a deviation from your normal operating procedures of running the farm store under your current permit for that farm store. So in my mind, if the permit for the farm store allows for your daily operational execution of what it is you're doing there, those activities are all covered under that permit, and the scale of them is your business. It, in my mind, would land on if you're adding a scope of operations or bringing in co-vendors or bringing in something that is not covered under the scope of the permit that you currently operate under, is what I would envision being a private event that would need additional permitting. Does that make any sense?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah. I think the question was, as far as public events, the difference between having a busy day for 6 hours at the orchard where you've got anywhere from 40 to 50 cars in the parking lot at any given time during the day versus just because we say we're having a fall
Right.
festival.
Yeah, if we set up a tent and some activities with the same amount of traffic flow as a busy day.
Private events would take place outside of farm
Business
hours.
hours, yeah.
And when the orchard is closed down.
Yeah.
And yeah, again, I guess Mike could maybe give us some direction on this, but from my perspective, if the activities of a private event for the farm store fall within the purview of the existing permit for that store, is that something different?
So I think you are in the right place with how you're drawing that line. There is an active farm store on the property, and so any use that falls in line with that, or sort of it falls as accessory to that, is part of what they already have rights to operate on the property. There is a bit of nuance because with all of this, there is a level of intensity and scale that can be dialed up or down. So something they're doing now, if all of a sudden, if they're selling apples and all of a sudden they start hauling in 18 wheelers of apples and they're selling 10 times the volume, because they're hauling them in, that would be something that might be a little bit beyond that. But yes, if the event is public in nature or an activity that's related to the existing farm store, that's not something that you're sort of reviewing right now.
Thanks, Mike. That was what I was trying to get clarification on, that if it falls within the scope of the currently permitted uses, then so long as the scaling of that is reasonable, then it's already a permitted use.
Okay.
Is what it sounds like. And again, this is not me advocating or trying to, I'm trying to
No,
be very clear within the lines of the rules you set out for us. This was a clarifying question.
no, absolutely, absolutely. And for further clarification, I guess my question goes to something that you did bring up. And again, Mike, a little bit of clarification on your part. So something less what Luther said with bringing in vendors or bringing in entertainment with the big tent and things like this, that is outside of that normally permitted activity that we're seeing with selling of apples and cider and whatever.
Right, yes. So with all of the existing uses, whether we're dealing with this property or any other property, if they can demonstrate that these are part and parcel of the activities that have occurred on the property, then those are activities that are permitted to be continued. If they had come before you or come to me and said, you know, here's photos from, you know, several weddings that have happened on the property, here's photos from festivals that we have had, here's us, you know, brewing cider, this and that. If they demonstrated that this was all part of the historic use of the property, they wouldn't be seeking approval. But these types of things, private events that are not related to the apple orchard or the farm shop or farm store, go beyond the sort of accessory uses that have historically occurred on the property. So they are coming before you for approval of those items because they kind of go beyond what the historic use has been, still fall within the regulations, but require a special permit.
Thanks for the clarification, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
So just to circle back, I just wanted to bring it all the way back to the question I had asked about the scale, which it sounds as though for private events, which are events that are not associated with the current permit and operation of the store, you'd be looking at numbers not to exceed 200. Are my notes wrong on that?
No, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely not more than that.
And then the second part of that question that I had was, do you have a thought on what you would set for hours of operation for private events?
Well, I think the pretty standard is 4 to 10 usually.
So you would be, as part of this permit, looking to be able to operate until 10 p.m.
Yeah, I think that would be nice to be able to do.
Okay. Now, again, I'm just trying to make sure I have my, full understanding.
Hey, so not to complicate things, but to go back to what we're allowed to do. So we've just going through this first year, we've figured out pretty quickly that we need to sell every apple at the farm, whether we make it into something or whatever the case may be. So if we come up with ways and we're not bringing in other vendors to get people to stay at the farm longer to buy more apples, does that fall under our existing use?
I would say, just off the top of my head and going out on a limb, Mike, help me. I would say, yeah, I don't see that as, I think we've kind of, or I think we've beat this around and around and around. But yeah, if you're not going outside, like I said, without the vendors, if you bring in, you know, I don't know, cornhole entertainment or anything like that. Go ahead, Luther, save me.
No, Jeff, I think so again, I don't know that we're in a position to give a hard ruling on that question
Right.
tonight, but my perception would be that would be a within reasonable limits kind of an answer, that if you're endeavoring to add value-added farm-centric activities to try to solicit and retain customers, those all things probably fall within the scope of the permit. But if you want to put a movie theater in so that people can watch movies while they eat your apples so they stay longer, that might not fall within the scope of what's currently permitted. And those
It's a
are
brilliant idea, by the way.
that's an extreme
Write that down right now.
but pointedly extreme that, like, I know you're in all likelihood you're not looking for a permit for a movie theater, but like, does that make sense that if it's genuine and not trying to scam the permit, then yeah, you could probably defend that expansion of value added that are farm centric value added things. But trying to co-opt the permit into something that it's not, I think would not end well.
Yeah,
Okay.
all right. Yeah, I mean, we're not looking to turn it into Six Flags.
Jeff,
Other commissioners?
this is Doug.
Yes, sir.
I'm aligned with that dialogue because it's all associated with the core business and the core permit that exists with the store today. The application that's in front of us is associated with, I'll say, something new or unique relative to what's in place, such as a private event. And the request to follow through with the appropriate licensing for hard cider associated with the apples that they're growing on their property today. If that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Going back to the outdoor events, because again, it's been tossed around. I'm trying to see the application itself with things like, it was mentioned with things like weddings and things like that. Is that something that you are going to, what's the word I'm looking for? The curator, are you going to be the ones to handle it, or are you just offering up the venue? Is that what you're doing?
No, well, I think anybody that's been in the store will have noticed that it's just me and Olivia and our two boys running the place. So there's no one else that works there. So we have to manage the whole thing. And I mean, we really enjoy that place. We don't want people trampling it and, not treating it the way we want it to be treated. So we're going to be there policing it.
We would definitely be hands-on in any sort of event, application. It would, run through both of us where, with organization and monitoring and, making sure everything goes as planned. So I guess the short answer is yes, we would be curating those events.
Okay, so your feeling is you would be there managing the location itself, but you're not doing the facilities piece of sorry it's been a while since I got married. Flowers, liquor, providing all of those things. You're simply providing the venue and making sure things go smoothly at the venue.
Correct. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do you have timeframes for what you're looking to do and what order you're looking to do things in?
Yes. Our top priorities at this point would be the cidery and tasting room along with the events. We would like to get those, the events definitely up and running for next season. The cidery and tasting room, we would like to get underway next season. I don't know if that would be something that we're able to complete. But those would be our first two priorities. The seasonal housing, we would be able to put off for a short time because we planted 1,100 new trees. They won't go into production for several more years. Once those are in production, we will definitely need seasonal help there for picking. So
We got some time.
that gives us probably, you know, a year and a half, 2 years to be able to get that underway.
And this is Luther, just following up with a couple of more things. I just also want to understand that all of the all of the uses that are outlined in the application that we're looking at here are all within compliance and alignment with the agricultural conservation that the property is held under.
Yeah, they are. Apparently there was some concern about that. The Department of Agriculture was sent Mike an email and wanted to cancel the meeting, and so I reached back out to her, and the only thing that would be taking place outside of the 5 acres that is free and clear would be setting up the tent on that reclaimed horse pasture. I mean, the bathrooms too, but I guess the bathrooms, I mean, we could build those anyway. And I think the only thing you guys would have concern over is if we let people stay in the cabins and use those bathrooms that we're renting one of the trailers.
So just to clarify, DOAG is comfortable with everything that's outlined on the application?
Well, they can't do anything about it unless they said you can't set up the tent. So really, it's just the tent. I turned the application into her, and we'll see what she says.
Okay.
I mean, worst case scenario, I move the tent over 100 feet and set it up in a different spot within the 5 acres.
Who is the person you're referring to as a woman?
She works
Seems
for the
Holly.
Department of Agriculture.
Her name's
That's our
Holly.
person that does the minutes, folks.
Okay. I'm just pulling up her name right now.
Thank you.
So I
Holly.
can just jump in and clarify while they're looking for that. So when you look at the site plan, you'll see a smaller parcel surrounded by a larger parcel. The larger parcel was part of a purchase of development rights with the Department of Agriculture several years ago. And so the comments that they're referring to relate to the Department of Ag wanting to have an involvement in improvements that are made to the portion of the property that go beyond that. The smaller parcel where the buildings are located is a traditional piece of property. It's free and clear of any of those restrictions, which is where that barn is proposed, and the other things in the existing store all happens there. So I did get an initial email from the Department of Ag letting us know that they had involvement in the purchase of development rights from many years ago, and they were sort of asking a couple of things from us, not to cancel the meeting, but they wanted the commission to postpone so that they could have an opportunity to talk with the applicant. And since that time, I've had that opportunity. The Lacey's have submitted the information to the Department of Agriculture. And so that process will sort of see itself through. But even if you guys tell them that they can build they can build 6 flags on that bigger piece of property, if that's what they were asking for, ultimately the Department of Agriculture will have sort of that final say. So we get the luxury of not necessarily knowing what their opinion is now, and also not getting to do anything but say thanks when they provide that feedback to the Lacey's. They will supersede anything that you do here. And so I corresponded with her, provided her with the information. She said thank you. She understood the meeting date. But we don't have any actual comments from them. And I don't know if the Lacey's have anything else to offer.
No, we haven't heard back from the Department of Ag at this point.
Yeah,
We put in our application with them and they were gonna review that but we haven't.
I'm not sure if she got, I think maybe she was a little more concerned because I don't know if the information she got was totally accurate. So I think that's kind of how that got, she kind of jumped over us and didn't reach out to us.
Okay. Yeah, and to be abundantly clear, that's in part why I wanted to make sure we covered this as part of the public hearing to get it on the record that the due process is being followed on that part of the concerns. It's a public hearing. I wanted to make sure that we just got it on the record that you folks are following all the appropriate procedures with DOAG and that Mike has been responsive to them and that is the process outside of what is our purview, really.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Any other input or questions from the commissioners?
Do we have dimensions on the tasting room? I'm sorry, Mark. I was just asking if we had, I guess dimensions don't really matter on for a use point of view. I was just curious for a tasting room.
Mentions.
Well, we put 40 by 40 on there just so we have some wiggle room. I'm not sure if that's how big it would be, but I'd rather have the ability to be a little bit bigger and then kind of fit it inside that box.
But that is on a very small scale compared to what most commercial cideries are. We're looking at keeping this orchard as a boutique orchard, everything, as unintrusive as possible, while still providing those services and those products that people are looking for when they go to an orchard.
We want everything to be really good. So we want to just use every apple that we grow. And when every apple is gone, it's gone. We don't want to be bringing in truckloads of apples from New York. And, just we want everything to be there really good, really high quality. And when it's over, it's over.
That's nice and simple.
Luther, why don't you just shut up, Luther? Jeez.
Who was that? That was rude.
Anything else from the commissioners?
Yeah.
Mark, did you have a comment?
Yeah, this is Mark. I'm just wondering why you're calling this glamping. I mean, typically glamping is luxury camping, including running water, electricity, kitchenettes, real beds, plush amenities. I mean, it seems that these gypsy campsters appear to be more primitive than luxury.
Well, they will have real beds. There will be running water and kitchenettes in the common bath and kitchen, which will be available for them. So
I guess we didn't really know how to phrase it.
yeah, I mean, rustic glamping. I
didn't want people to think it was going to turn into like a campground. I mean, we stayed at a farm in Florida, and it was exact same situation. I think there was 3, but it was awesome. There was a golf pro from Miami there with his wife that was staying in the one next to us, and there was a fire pit, and we ended up just meeting, and we had dinner, and we met somebody that we normally never would have bumped into, and we just had a great time. We thought it would be something that'd be kind of fun to replicate up here.
Sounds good.
Well, this is Mark. I'm just wondering why that portion wouldn't fall under our campground regulations that we currently have.
I can speak to that if you want, Jeff.
Why don't we take that up at the meeting? Anything else from the commissioners? Okay, we will open it up to the public for any public comment. I do have a correspondence here from one of the abutters, and I do know they are on, at least I think they were still on here. And I don't know if they want to address it themselves or just want me to read the letter that was received. That would, and to not to be totally obtuse, that was the Zlotniks. Mr. and Mrs. Zlotnik, would you prefer me to read the letter, or did you want to address it yourself as your comment? You're on mute if you're trying to talk. Okay, so before I go to read this comment, is there anyone in attendance that wished to say anything? Mr. Lundquist, you're on mute. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Lindquist. I represent one of the abutters, Gail Chernovsky, and she asked me to appear this evening and speak briefly in opposition to some of the requests under this special permit. And before I go any further, can you hear me? I'm never sure if these
Just
earbuds
fine.
work. Okay, great. Thank you. The regulations are fairly clear, in my opinion, for whatever that's worth, as to the permitted uses and the uses that are allowed under special permit. The application submitted by the Lacey's referenced the regulations for the eateries on farms and the farm, brewery, distillery, winery, and nothing else, because events of the type that they're proposing are not permitted in the residential agricultural zones, and the camping and temporary shelter facilities that they're proposing are clearly covered by the regulations concerning campgrounds, which effectively prohibit the creation of new campgrounds. Any campground that was not in existence prior to 1987 is not permitted in the residential agricultural zone. The regulations do provide for certain temporary agricultural related uses in this zone, but it's limited to events of a much smaller scope. Regulations speak of hay rides and petting zoos, but only in the general commercial zone are events such as weddings, fall festivals, other large scale events permitted. So really the private events they're proposing on this property of whatever scope are simply not permitted under the current regulations. They're limited to, I believe, those temporary agricultural uses that are associated with their farm store. Whether or not the cabins constitute campgrounds, I don't believe that seasonal worker housing is enumerated permitted use, even with a special permit. And all of the lodging and other related uses require permanent structures under the current regulations. So the cabins they've proposed are simply not permitted in the residential agricultural zone. My client doesn't have a strenuous opposition to the brewery or the associated food service, provided that it's reasonable in scope and meets the scope of the regulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lindquist. Other comment? I see R&M Holdings LLC raising his hand.
Yes. Jeff, I am the commission. Thank you. I'm Robert Campbell, R&M Holdings, 21 Lakeside. I know this application was submitted as complete at the last meeting. I didn't see any information on evidence to Willimantic Waterworks. And I realize that it does fall within the watershed there. As far as the application, I'm in favor of the application. I believe that the glamping, though, would most likely fall under the short-term rental permit side of the application, designated in the R80. The other thing I've noticed too is the site plan is fairly incomplete. I mean, I understand there was a good discussion on how it was, but it doesn't show all the parking for the 200 guests that would be on site. The location of the bathhouse and kitchen should be designated on the site plan in accordance with where the well is, so it meets the proper setbacks for the septic and everything else that needs to go in. And then they would definitely need to have a septic sized to accommodate the 3 units or the size of the amount of people there. And then the only other question I'd have is, how do they plan to deal with sanitation facilities when they have 200 guests on site? Are they going to be using portable restrooms, or are they going to be using restrooms on site with a combination of portable restrooms? But those are pretty much my observations from looking at it. And again, I'm in favor of this application. I think it's be a great use for that farm, and I wish them well with it.
Thank you. And it was Robert Campbell,
That's correct, yes.
and CAMB
CAMPBELL.
DL, just like the soup. Okay, very
No
good.
relation.
Thank you. Okay, I do see coming off of mute the Zlotniks. Ms. Zlotnik, would you like me to read your, or would you rather address it yourself?
Sure. Thanks for having us. You could read it. I shot it off really quickly this evening. Concerns of family up here on the hill and neighbors. It seems that when they were talking about totally accurate information about this plan, we're concerned that what is the accurate information? Then we're not getting that accurate information, where there's a line between agriculturally related types of business events and venues that are related to the agriculture, versus there's this gray area between crossing over now to a development of a wedding venue that's completely open to whatever scope you can imagine for using that property. So I'm not sure that what you're saying at the beginning of the meeting seems to show that anything that they have right now and they're permitted for, that they can go ahead with. But this seems like a totally different application for a new business.
Okay. Anything else, or did you want me to go through your letter?
Sure, go through the letter. That would be great.
Okay. Again, this was received this afternoon, November 12th. Dear Mr. D'Amato, I apologize for coming to your attention so late. However, I feel this proposal needs to be addressed. My neighbors and family asked me to quickly compose this to you before the meeting tonight. My name is Mary Ellen Zlotnik, and I live on 430 Pumpkin Hill Road, Ashford, Connecticut. Both my husband and I are responding to the notice of the proposed building development at 317 Bebington Road. We are opposed to the plan on a number of key issues that would be detrimental to the impact on the surrounding community, which include abutting farms and neighbors in rural neighborhoods. The first concern I may start with is that this proposal is for a commercial business, not for agriculture or farming. The owners of the property will not be residing, they are not residents, at this property, overseeing all the activity that would or could go on. It could be as far-reaching as one could imagine, not just a quaint wedding. People could rent this space for whatever purpose they have, and the owners would not be present. Owners of agricultural farms who have a fully vested commitment to the community and agricultural neighbors would be residing there. They themselves would then feel the impact of what this type of business would have. They can plan an event and leave it as to whoever rents it, or whoever rents it, yes. It goes without saying that country roads are really not designed for excessive traffic at all. Traffic all at once. You could see an excess of 150 cars all around the same hour coming through to attend an event and create a lot of driving issues for those of us who live nearby. We have a lot of runners, walkers, and hikers, bikers, and people who are visiting the land trust for bird watching and nature. The sheer volume of traffic will impair the ability of these folks and of these trusts to be accessed and enjoyed for what the hiking trails were intended. At nightfall, or at the end of the big event, they would exit after taking part in a lot of drinking and try to navigate the back roads throughout all of our neighborhoods. My children come home from work and go to work on these back roads. Noise. Noise is the big issue. Each and every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, there most likely would be the sound of any kind of music and or DJ, which in the valley, there would be heard throughout the entire area. People who value their quiet weekends away from work or any family events in the backyard will be inundated with music and noise. It could go through the night as well, especially if they are renting mini houses to visitors. I, along with the adjoining neighbors, are especially concerned about this. All of us here in this area are exceptionally committed to reducing noise level and its impact to the serenity and nature. For generations, our neighbors have been truly stewards of this cherished quiet area. As it stands, we already hear the Stafford Speedway in the summer evenings. Join the club. And just last week, we could hear the drumming of the football games at UConn. We can only imagine the major interruptions for any rural enjoyment one would have. Furthermore, many of us have farm animals, including horses, cows, and overall wildlife that will surely be disturbed by the noise. We all want to enjoy the quiet fire pits, fishing, hunting, and nature's quiet beauty that we all have worked hard to keep in this Ashford community. We do have concern and questions regarding the environmental impact and wetlands impact with runoff, not just to our property, but to other adjoining farms and parcels. Given that they are asking for a communal shower, kitchen, would mean quite a bit of water use as well as the discharge of that. This proposal has the hallmark points of creating an RV park with wedding party events venue, which could include bands, shows, etc. This is something that is asked for by a developer, not someone who will be on stringent watch for their neighbors, who would be the mechanism of enforcement on conditions of operations on a regular basis. This plan truly exceeds the agricultural focus and commitment to the preservation of farmlands that for many families have been generational. There will be excessive impact on the community, and we ask that you deny the special permit per section 300-17C for the Lacey proposal. Thank you so much for your time, Mary Ellen Slotnick. Thank you for the comment, Ms. Slotnick.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Let me go over to the other side here. I don't
Hey,
see
Jeff.
anyone raising. Yes?
Jeff, I tried to raise my hand. It's Paul Varga.
Oh, okay, Paul.
I don't know if it went through or not.
You can always grab it, Paul. You're a little. I've got stuff. Let me get rid of this.
It did
Now
get
I see your hand. Actually,
Okay.
Paul, before we go to you, I think Jessica came up before you. I had a banner across the top wiping out the little electronic hands. Now I do. So I'm going to take Jessica first and then go to you, Paul, if that's okay.
Nope, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Jessica, please state your name.
Hi, Jessica Bates. I'm at 113 Shady Road. I fully support the cidery. I do have the same reservations regarding the short-term rentals that others have voiced. I am a camper. I know there are short-term camper rentals in addition to like the Airbnb sort of thing. But from what I read on the zoning regs, in an RA zone, the owner must be a resident of the parcel in order to do a short-term rental. So I don't think there is any residences on this parcel, so I don't know how that criteria is going to be met. And then the other portion of the application that I have questions on is really just more of the engineering criteria that is outlined in the special permit application. Special permits are to be signed and sealed by a professional land surveyor or engineer. Of that, they would give you the bulk chart requirements for parking, for loading, for driveways, the parking spaces needed. And in that would also be the hydrologic and hydraulic analysis of a development, for stormwater management, water quality management. I'm assuming, depending upon the scope of services, how much land is going to be disturbed as to whether or not it hits deep requirements for a general stormwater discharge permit for construction and dewatering activities. Things like that. There just seems to be a lot of holes on the engineering side that doesn't seem to be hit for a special permit application per the regulations. And I would be curious to see how those things are going to be met and on this application.
Okay, thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
Paul, you're up.
All right, thank you, Jeff. So I just want to say that I'm in support of this, like 150%. We just had a recent meeting of the Our Town, Our Future, where people voiced their concern and support of agriculture. And being a large parcel owner and an operator of a farm in town, anything that we can do for agriculture to help them sustain it, because frankly, I have a full-time job so I can keep my farm. And if I didn't have that full-time job, that 110 acres that I own would not be a farm. That's the bottom line. We're pricing people out of the town. I've said this 1,000 times. As many people know, I sit on the board of finance. I see it on a regular basis. It can't continue. I think this type of proposal for the agritourism business is a way for these people to sustain the orchard and keep it an orchard and keep it a farm, and keep it in agriculture. And yes, it's not 100% agriculture. Some people might come and enjoy a wedding or go to the cidery. I'll probably be the second one in line for that. But it's important. And if the town of Ashford wants to continue an agricultural basis, we have to expand and let some things change a little bit. And I know I've said it before, change is difficult. It's not what people want, but the 20 acre, 5 cows, 6 chickens on a little quaint New England farm doesn't exist anymore. I wish it did, but it doesn't. 100%, 150% support this. I can't even stress how much I support this. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Paul. Other public comment? Okay, I see no other electronic hands or other hands. Or
Yeah, hey
public.
Jeff, let me jump in here.
Yes, Joe Murphy.
Yeah, hi. So Joe Murphy, I'm 174 Waterfall Road. Fellow farmer here, and I just want to reiterate what Paul said and definitely support, this initiative. I think it's really hard, if not impossible, to make a living farming. I couldn't imagine selling, trying to do it selling apples. And I think what Crook's Orchard has already done with that piece of property has really, put a lot of eyes on Ashford that, people wouldn't have, considered going to Ashford for apples. They might go to Buell's or some other place. So I think this is a positive overall for the town, and just wanted to voice my opinion here and to show that I'm in support of it.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Appreciate it. Other comment? Giving people plenty of time. Okay. That will bring us to the end of the public comment section, and we will go back to the Lacey's for a final comment on their application and what they'd like to share.
So do you want me to address everybody that had an issue?
I want you to address, you're really addressing the commission as opposed to addressing their
Okay,
input.
gotcha.
But if there's anything that you wanted specifically to touch upon, we're open to allowing you to do that, obviously.
Okay, so one, this is an application for use. I mean, we're not at the point where we're building anything yet. So this is an application to use the property for a certain activity. We're gonna use portable bathrooms for the 12 outdoor events that potential 12. We're not even saying that we want to have 12. We'd like the ability to have 12. And we also feel like agritourism falls under agriculture. That's kind of where things are going to keep farms in place nowadays. I don't even know what to say about that. I mean, I don't know what we'd engineer for setting up a tent in the hayfield. There's that, and then the letter, I don't think any of those concerns are anything that we're even looking to do there. I mean, yeah, I think it's gonna be a lot less than what people are concerned about. That's, I guess, the point I'd like to get across.
One thing I do want to say is that we have spent a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of tears at that orchard. And the last thing we want to do is take it and turn it into something that doesn't represent what Crooks Orchard is. So what we're trying to do here is diversify our services, our products, in order to support the orchard. Because to be honest, selling apples is not going to cut it. There's no way that we're going to really be able to keep the orchard open long term if we're limited to basically only selling apples there. So these are ideas that we wanted to put into play to support it. I mean, if you recall, in 2023 with that late frost, the orchard lost virtually its entire crop of peaches, apples. There was nothing there. As well did the surrounding orchards. So
we really need something to fall back on as an insurance policy to keep it open. I mean, that place was, when we bought that place, I think, I don't know how many people have been there, but we're pretty passionate about keeping that place clean and pristine and the way it is. And I mean, we like coming to Ashford because we like Ashford. We like it the way it is. And I don't think that what we want to do is really going to change much, except more people are going to go there and enjoy it.
Anything else you want to add?
No.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. I do have one question that came to mind. Have you approached the Ag Commission in seeking their either input or endorsement?
We did, but I think they struggle to kind of have everybody be able to get together at the same time, just between weather and
farming
in general. Yeah.
No, yeah, I fully understand that. Yes.
But yes, we've spoken to several members of the Ag Commission about it. And
I'd like to remind people too that, Westford Hill Distillery seems to work, and I don't.
It's a perfect example.
Yeah. I don't see anything we want to do being too much more intrusive than that. And even when the cidery's open, it's not like we want to be open till 10 o'clock at night. I mean, this is like a daytime type of thing. And it's not, people aren't going there, you know, to get hammered. They're just going there for the afternoon. People are going to be there with their kids, maybe have a cider or buy a 6-pack and, you know, just enjoy the farm.
Very good.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So at this point, Mike, please remind me, do I need a motion to close?
You do need a motion, but you should just make sure that everything's sort of wrapped before it's closed.
Oh, understood. I personally would like to hear from the Ag Commission, though I know we have full representation when it comes to that situation. Personally, I would like to see a bit more information provided by the Lacey's, more of a plan that we can, and I know we don't have to approve a business plan in any way, shape, or form, but I'd like to get a better handle on the scope. I think that was a term that Luther used earlier. A scope of the activities and capturing this in some way. So I would like to keep the hearing open till our next meeting, so we can maybe tie up some of the loose ends on this through our discussion at the meeting and such. So is there a motion to extend the hearing to our next meeting?
So moved.
Second, Mark Schnubel.
Seconded by Mark. All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Thank you. All those opposed? So we will keep the hearing open at this point. Yes, Luther.
Jeff, are we going to provide the Lacey's with a list of clarifying questions that we would like them to come back to the next meeting with? You mentioned having a couple things you'd like to have them expand on.
Absolutely, that's a good plan. We will do that. We will provide you with some clarifying points we'd like to see put down. And I encourage all the commission members, if they didn't ask them at this point, to provide them to Mike, so we can cull them together and provide those to the Lacey's. Okay, so we will continue that hearing. Moving on to our next hearing. PZ-24-4, special permit application per section 300-39 for cannabis hybrid retail facility at 55 Knott Highway. Owner, Olympic Property Groups LLC. Applicant, Verano Holdings LLC / Zenleaf. So very similar format. We will start with the applicant presenting, open up to the commission, open up the public comment, and then back to the applicant. So I see a number of people that have put their shining faces on the screen. I'll allow you guys to start as you will.
Great. All right. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, a little louder. Well, go ahead. I'm good.
All right. Hold on, let me. Is now any better, sir?
Much better. Thank you.
Great. Good evening, Commissioner, members of the commission, and everyone else in the town of Ashford. My name is Ryan Ewing. I'm Vice President Retail Compliance here at Verano Holdings Corp. We are one of the largest cannabis operators in the United States, and we are very much focused on providing medical cannabis to patients who need it. I have a couple colleagues here as well that are standing ready to answer the public's comments and the commissioner's comments as well. First, I have Mr. Robert Hart here. Rob is our Senior Manager of Policy, and I have Aiden Wright here. He is our Construction Manager. Aiden, Mr. Wright, is responsible for the overall build out of all of our facilities nationally, all of our 152 dispensaries, and would be the chief primary point of contact for building at this location should we receive a special permit to do so. And last but certainly not least, I have our Director of Regulatory Affairs here as well. Her name is Miss Nicole Geary. Say hi, Nicole. And like I said, my name is Ryan Ewing. I'm Vice President Retail Compliance. I am responsible for the lawful operation of all 152 dispensaries that we have throughout our 14 active markets. That includes our 5 operating dispensaries in Connecticut, where we employ several hundred employees throughout the state. I'm very grateful for the commission and town's time tonight. I'm happy to answer any questions about our application, but essentially it is this. We are proposing to operate an adult use hybrid medical retail facility at 55 Knott Highway. Very importantly, we are not planning any exterior modifications at all. This is an interior retrofit of what is essentially a retail facility with an aim to serve medical patients. Very importantly, I'd like to stress from the outset that our facilities are incredibly secure. Loitering is not allowed. It is always illegal to remain on our property. And we are here as a medical operating facility first and foremost. There will always be a pharmacist with a white lab coat on in that facility, making sure that patients who need medicine within Ashford and the surrounding area are able to receive it readily. We provided our full special permit application, noting all of the site plan requirements and or otherwise seeking a waiver from those that wouldn't otherwise apply in this instance, since we are not actually constructing anything besides doing an interior retrofit of a retail style facility. We also, of course, notified the abutting property owners and worked with Mr. Amato to make sure that that was published in the newspaper. We notified the water utility, and we had our public posting placed about a week and a half earlier than required, just to make sure that we were being as forthcoming as possible. I'm happy to answer any questions from the commission and the town. So with that, thank you very much for your time, and I'm ready to discuss.
Thank you, Mr. Ewing, for that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hopefully, again, the commissioners have reviewed most of the materials as provided, especially the always good to have a lot of information, the 33-page application. We appreciate that.
Yes, sir. or sorry, depending on how you...
No, I was serious. I wasn't being facetious. So I'll open it up to the commissioners for questions of the applicant. Am I seeing anything? Not as of yet. Well, I'll start then. Regarding the excuse me, the what do we call this? We call this the explanatory materials.
Yes, sir.
And just under number 2, with adherences to local state codes and ordinances, I realize the building, the outside of the building, does not require changes. It's a existing structure, likely meeting codes. From what I understand, there was quite a bit of damage done to the inside by the previous tenant. Will that cause you any issues with coding codes or building codes or any of the other state or local ordinances?
No, sir. And I appreciate the question, Commissioner. Thank you. I'd like to answer it in a couple parts. One, the portion on the explanatory materials, we read that as requiring it to be placed on the site plan itself. So because that wasn't there, we wanted to very clearly state that we will, of course, comply with all adherence to state and local building codes. Of course, we're a very heavily regulated company by the state. And I have our construction manager here who can speak very substantively about how we comply with local and state building codes at all times. Aiden has a very direct background in construction, and we utilize most of the same general contractors throughout the country. We have a very established procedure in conducting these types of build outs and retrofits. So the short answer of your question is we have no issue with complying with state and building local codes. We're always going to be very forthcoming with regulators because we have no problems with doing things the right way. We do not cut corners, sir. Mr. Aiden, would you like to please provide the commissioners with just some additional further detail for the Ashford location, please?
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of our plan set, we are nearing completion on the construction documents in preparation to submit to your building department, of which we will comply with all building codes. As I'm not familiar off the top of my head with the most recent Connecticut state code is, but I believe it's the 2021 International Building Code still, of which, yes, we absolutely plan to comply with and work with your building officials and building department to make sure we check our boxes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And thank you, Ed. And Commissioner Smith, if the context is helpful, sir, the 4 people from Verano and Zenleaf that are here before you today, we all play a very direct role in all of our build outs nationally. It's the 4 of us that are responsible for ensuring that we do things the Verano way, and that's the right way the first time. And then last part of context, sir, is we've opened 5 dispensaries in Connecticut. Aiden was the construction manager on all of them, and Rob, Nicole, and I have been involved making sure that everything remains compliant because my title is retail compliance for the company. So we are always ensuring that we're complying with the rules, sir.
No, no, not questioning your compliance in any way. So thank you. Luther,
Certainly
I
not.
just have one more quick question that is probably not in the scope of it's not in my purview, but why Ashford? I look at your other I look at the other 5 locations across the state. Why Ashford?
Why Ashford? So there's a couple of reasons as to why Ashford. One, it is fairly centrally located. It's close to the UConn campus. It's close to population areas, and people that live in areas are more often than not medical patients that require access to medical care. There aren't that many similarly situated facilities within the immediate area. And one of the things that we've noticed just holistically, sir, is that Connecticut is not a very large state, but the number of additional hybrid retailers that are coming online are continuing to make the state a little bit smaller. So as a company, we would not prefer to be right next to 3 or 4 or 5 competitors. We saw Ashford as an opportunity to be involved in an area that looked like it, from a map perspective, looked like it needed access to medical care. That's something that we as a company are always going to prioritize. We're active in 14 markets in 14 states, sir. All of those markets, we provide medical cannabis to patients. We do not operate adult use only states. We started as a medical company. We're always going to be that. So we noticed that. And then, of course, real estate. Real estate is a known pressure point. This location had excellent, has great parking, has great access, and it's just right off Knott Highway. So we thought that it was a great fit. Aiden and his team were there on site and did a site assessment of the facility itself. We felt that it was very positive and well within our capabilities to retrofit it quickly and into a finished product that's commensurate with our other Zenleaf locations, which are incredibly clean and modern on the inside. They're more akin to an Apple store than it would be just like a general retail store. But yeah, that would be my answer as to why Ashford, sir.
And I appreciate that. And actually, you are one of the few groups that are actually putting medical care into the eastern part of the state as opposed to pulling it away. So if there's appreciation, we appreciate that. Luther, you had a question.
Yes, good evening, everyone. A quick comment. I appreciate the completeness of the application materials. It's always nice to be able to review materials in advance of a meeting, especially when they appear to have some substance behind them. So thank you for taking the time to take the application seriously.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I wanted to talk briefly and give you an opportunity to expand perhaps a little bit on the odor mitigation plan that you included as part of the materials. I know this is always a potential point of contention or concern in the community when a facility of this nature is proposed. Reading through the materials that you did provide, You have a response protocol that you have internally to address any complaint from state or local regulatory agencies. Do you have a response policy for dealing with pressure from simple residential complaints? Do those need to always escalate through the town to be addressed in a timely fashion? And just, I'd like an opportunity to understand a little bit more about how you respond to pressures from within the community.
Sure, and I appreciate the question, Commissioner. Thank you. So when you mean about pressures within the community, is the question relating to, in the hypothetical, someone within the community believes that there is an odor that is mitigating, that is emanating from our facility, and you want to know what is their recourse to try to address that? Is that the question, sir?
So the question could be in part that, and in part, what metrics or mechanisms do you have in place to be able to demonstrate that that
it
is
works,
provable or disprovable?
Sure. So let me start by saying that of our 152 dispensaries that we maintain nationally, I can't think of a single time in my role as Vice President of Retail Compliance that we've received an odor complaint. I'm serious. The way it's very important to recognize the context as to how this industry is operating, sir. Cultivation facilities are completely distinct and separate from a retail store, which is what we're talking about here. This is a medical dispensary. And the main difference, of course, right, the cultivation is happening there. But what makes it really different is that the retail at the dispensary side, sir, all product, all medical product, adult use product, all of it, it stays vacuum sealed in a double sealed bag or jar, which is then sealed and labeled. It never sees the light of day, and it is highly illegal and very non-compliant to crack that open, to open it, and certainly not to consume it anywhere except within the comfort of your home. So we do not have odor complaints because, quite simply, sir, cannabis is never, ever open in our facility, ever. It stays shut, it's never opened, and it's not allowed for any patient or guest to open that product before or after they buy it, and certainly not outside. There is just, and the odor would also come from consumption, right? Which is always illegal. And we strongly enforce that. I'm the one that personally calls law enforcement when we see people doing something like that. We do not have those types of issues. But because we are robust and we want to be good neighbors, we want the people of where we operate, right? We're going to hire Ashford residents. We would like to have an Ashford-based general manager at the store. We want to be good neighbors and help and make sure that we're available. So anyone is able to contact me or anyone on my team at any time. I'm happy to drop my personal cell phone number in this Zoom chat here. It does not matter to me, sir. We're happy to be available. You can also just just go in the door and immediately talk to somebody. There's going to be someone there that's going to ask for your ID before you can proceed further, but that's because those are the rules. And lastly, even though there isn't a risk for odor at these dispensary facilities, in an effort to be as forthcoming as possible, we go a little bit above and beyond on our HVAC system by installing higher grade filters that just immediately encapsulate any type of odor that's there. They're the same type of HVAC filters that we use at our cultivation facilities, and those are the facilities that could have an odor effect if you weren't changing your filters and making sure you had an HVAC plan in place. So we kind of just copied that from just as our internal process to make sure that we're utilizing that at our dispensary. So long story short, you would see 2 to 3 HVAC filters that would be ground level units with like carbon filter filtration, which would be behind the point of sale counter and certainly in the vault. That's something. And then we have a basic logbook that's just with all of our other logbooks, making sure that we're changing that filter monthly. We have a general manager and AGM sign off on it. And then I, as the retail compliance person in charge, I have a compliance manager under me who goes every quarter and checks that book to make sure that it's being done. So I know that was probably a little bit of a long-winded answer, but we all understand how important odor is. We all understand that there's going to be questions about our presence and use. We want to get ahead of that, and we want to be, available to answer questions because we certainly are not hiding from it. We would love to talk. So thank you, sir.
No, I appreciate that answer. That was exactly what I wanted to hear in terms of just an expansion on that, just so that myself, the other commission members, and anyone that's in the public had an opportunity to hear that response.
Certainly.
Thank you, Mr. Ewing. Thank you, Luther. Any other comments from the commissioners? Questions, comments?
I have a question.
Yes, Nord.
As a hybrid facility, you sell medical and recreational marijuana products. What is the percentage breakdown between medical and recreational sales nationally from your company?
Sure. I can't say that I have first of all, thank you for the question, Commissioner. I can't say that I have a current ratio of our medical to adult use sales, sir, just because I just wouldn't have that number on me. But I would say, so one of our busiest stores is our Zenleaf Meriden location, sir, and that's also our busiest medical store. So a substantial portion of the people that come through that door are patients. It's heavily medical patient area. Same thing with our Zenleaf Waterbury store. Our Zenleaf Waterbury location, Commissioner, was medical only. It recently got the ability to serve adult use guests as well. We're still seeing a majority of medical patients there. So it's hard to answer as to what the ratio would be, but it certainly won't be zero patients. I'm sure, in what we've looked at just from the demographics of where medical access is in this part of the state, we certainly believe that there will be a heavy medical patient presence. And that's, of course, that's why we plan on being here. And that's why there's always going to be a pharmacist, who also known as a key employee, that's going to be there on site anytime that store is open. Sorry, my office was losing the light. Sorry about that.
This is Robert Hart from Verano. Just to add some additional context, given that we have such a robust experience in these medical markets, we see our patients in the same similar sort of frequency as they visit typical pharmacies. They get comfortable with our facilities. They know our folks that we have staffing these facilities. They know our pharmacists. They develop personal, close relationships with those folks to make sure that they know them on a personal basis and that their symptoms are being alleviated to the best of our abilities with the products we have in store. So to the point of a ratio, like Mr. Ewing said, that's not exactly something we have on hand, but just know that our commitment to medical patients is first and foremost.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, gentlemen. Anything else, Nord?
It sounds to me like you can use medical to get in the door, and then that just opens the door for widespread recreational sales. That's what it looks like.
Well, we're certain. I appreciate the comment, Commissioner, but we're certainly a medical cannabis focused company. All of our stores provide medical access in some form or fashion. We do not operate in states that are adult use only. So we're always going to be providing some form of medical access to a patient, regardless of whether adult use customers can transact within that location as well. A couple of things to note, though, sir, is that that certainly is not the case. We certainly are not saying that we're a medical cannabis facility to allow adult use customers in the door. We on our own, and the DCP, which heavily regulates our business and operations, we have medical preservation plans in place where if we were grateful and fortunate enough to be able to operate within Ashford, there's a couple of things that are for medical patients where they are automatically protected. Okay. So one of the first things is that it's important to note that medical patients will never wait in line for any adult use customer in any of our stores, period. nationally. So it's essentially akin to TSA pre-check, Commissioner. If you're a medical patient and you're trying to walk into our Zenleaf Ashford location, and there's a line that to get into the door to check IDs, that person goes immediately to the front. Their ID and their patient card is immediately checked and confirmed, and then they are personally escorted directly to the front of the line. They do not wait in line, and they immediately receive service at the next available point of sale station. Medical patients do not wait. Adult use customers do. There are countless ways that we try to prioritize medical access, including medical deliveries. And then, of course, there's special discounts like Medical Mondays, where we take an additional 20% off all products to ensure that medical patients are able to receive the medicine they'd like. It's important to note that Medical Mondays is one of our more popular days for all of our patients. Zenleaf Waterbury, the patients in Waterbury have really loved that, and they've grown pretty close and accustomed to the pharmacists that are there. So we do have some medical only stores for what it's worth, Commissioner. We certainly are not trying to get into the adult use market. We're very serious about our patients, sir.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions from the commissioners?
What would their hours be?
Yeah, I appreciate the question, Commissioner Gerald. Thank you very much. Our proposed hours, I believe, were 8 to 9 p.m., which is pretty commensurate with what we've seen in other markets. We don't want to stay later open past that. Obviously, for public policy reasons that we don't need to be open, but also just from what we've learned in our 150 plus dispensaries is that it's not going to be that busy at past 9 o'clock at night for us to be able to make it sense operationally to stay open. We've noticed that the 8 to 9 p.m., usually 8 to 10 a.m., and then 7 to 9 p.m. are pretty busy because everyone's either coming to or from work. So that's why we want to make sure that we're staying open on those two windows. That's really important for medical access. We have countless examples where we've seen that. But besides that, we don't want to stay open past that. And we're certainly grateful for any feedback that we could have from the local community, because we do want to be a part of this community. We certainly don't want to dictate terms. And if there's a better or more appropriate hours of operation for the town of Ashford, we'd happily want to know about that. But that is our standard, 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., 7 days a week. We certainly want to be open 7 days a week because, your standard pharmacy is open 7 days a week. People need that medicine, not 6. They need it 7 days a week. But like I said, we're happy to answer any questions and get more context from you and the town as to what would be more appropriate, if anything.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, sir. Again, going to the commissioners, any other questions? At this point, I see no yellow electronic hands. I see no one waving at me. So we will open this up to public comment. And again, members of the public, please direct your comments to the commission. And it sounds like that the gentleman joining us from Zenleaf would be open to responding to those comments or questions at this time. So I open it up to the public for any comment. Jump over. Don't see anything. Oh, there we go. Go ahead, Paul.
Hey, Jeff. I don't really have an opinion either way on a professional level. I just have a question, I guess, for the commission on the application. And this is coming from my position as the fire chief. On the application, it lists 55 Knott Highway as the building, but the site plans I see are for the building at 39 Knott Highway, which would be Pith Products. 55 Knott Highway is the Charter Communications old sneakers building, as we know it. Also, a sidebar. Some of the abutters appear to be missing. 69 Knott Highway would be an abutter to that property, as would 39, which I think was listed. But that's just my only concern. I don't know that the application was necessarily correct, or did I get corrected and I missed it in a previous meeting? And if I did, I apologize. Thanks.
No,
Thank you,
there was nothing in a previous meeting, but I believe it says they all indicate 55, but the Pith Products. Mike, can you answer that? Because I see Pith Products come up on the 55 address.
Right, yeah, the site plans that are included in the application materials are for 55 Knott Highway.
Right.
So I maybe just didn't catch what Paul was speaking to, but the application was noticed for 55 and the site
Yeah.
plans.
Mike, that
Does Pith Products own the other building also?
69, yeah, 69 Knott Highway is the residential piece of that property that's right next door. The same owner of Olympic Properties Groups owns that house.
Owns that property.
It's one parcel, sir.
Okay, but the site plan that's listed in the public information on the website for the PZC shows the building, excuse me, that's located at 39 Knott Highway, not the building and parking lot that's located at 55. It's just a point of order, basically. It doesn't really make any difference to me. It just doesn't look right. Does that make sense? It's not the same building by any stretch. There's two entirely different buildings, and from my standpoint as the fire chief, two entirely different scenarios. I'm just stating what I saw on the application and in the application paperwork. It's not correct.
So this is Luther again. So Paul, I had actually noticed something similar, and it's actually even maybe a little bit more convoluted than that, because the renderings of the proposed signage show the correct building for 55.
Correct. They do. I know. And that's why I was like, I don't know whether I don't think anybody's being malicious. I'm not implying that. I'm just saying that it's probably an honest mistake. And if I remember right, in one of those maps, it actually says Pith Products and listed as 55, which is incorrect. For, I guess, more for the public standpoint, and again, for me, just looking at it from my position, like there's a large differentiation between 39, 55, and 55.
Sure. Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Mr. Varga. Thank you. Aiden, do you have something to say, sir?
Yes, sir. I do. I think what Paul's pointed out is correct, and I think that would be a mistake on our behalf here. These site plans we received from Mike in advance of this, as we noted previous. We're not planning to do any exterior work aside from the signage that you saw in that proposed rendering. And it is noted on the opening page of this site plan here that the address is 55 Knott Highway. And so that may be where the mistake and I guess misinterpretation on our behalf here of the property. We have not had, per se, civil engineers out to the site because we don't have any intention to do this. And this was what we had reached out to Gardner and Peterson Associates locally, and they had provided these documents along with the city of Ashford. So to that extent, I believe that the site plan provided here is for the 39 as indicated, when actually we are the 55 Knott Highway is our property.
Understood. And I appreciate you pointing that out, Mr. Varga, or Chief Varga. Thank you very much. Like Aiden said, we did get these site plans from what was on file in Ashford for 55 Knott Highway. You will also notice within our application that we submitted a formal request for a waiver from several of the site plan requirements because they were not applicable to our use. We believe again that that would be the case here, especially considering that the site plan would not be impacted. We're only doing an interior work only with 0 exterior modifications, like Mr. Wright was saying here. So to the extent that we could correct this, I'd like to ask the commission for a waiver for the site plan requirements, or otherwise note the scrivener's error in the fact of our site plan. But please note that this facility or this building currently exists. It's completely constructed. We plan on only doing interior remodeling work that is commensurate of a retail store and a pharmacy.
That's actually pretty nice.
But thank you very much for pointing that out, Mr. Varga. I appreciate that.
And I can tell you that Paul Luther and I had the same short discussion on this when we were looking at this, because seeing the Pith products made me think, what, Pith is leaving? The manufacturer in behind the building there?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Commissioner. That was an
Then we
oversight
jumped
on
to
our
then we
part.
jumped to 55 and saw, oh no, it's the other building.
Yeah, we received this. We received this that was
got
on
it.
file from Ashford. We apologize. We weren't going to create a site plan for something that we would have otherwise sought an exemption or waiver like we are doing for the other site plan requirements within this application. So if possible, I would greatly appreciate the commission's understanding in extending that waiver to the scrivener's error that's in our application, please, sir.
Not a problem. You know, thank you for falling on the sword, but I'm sure Mike will work with you to provide the proper site plans for what we have in-house.
So Jeff, can I just jump in? Because I'm trying to follow along here. So
Sure.
These site plans were taken from the town clerk's office. They were provided by Gardner and Peterson, who prepared the surveys. But the site plan for Pith products at 55 Knott Highway was approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission in 2007 and filed in the town clerks as map 1024. So unless the address is incorrect and they are seeking an approval for 39, which is not what it seems like is the case, this is the filed site plan that was approved by the commission and signed by the commission for 55.
And that was back in 2007, you said?
When the building was initially constructed.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I'm trying to go back and forth between all the information to see, is there an issue with the assessor's information or the photos? But the site plan that is on file that was prepared by Gardner and Peterson and approved by the commission is 55 Knott Highway, Pith products. So maybe I'm just have had a long day and I am not following along correctly, but I'm going to share it. This is the town clerk's map that was filed and signed.
Right.
So the plans that are as part of the application were provided directly from the surveyor, Gardner and Peterson, to the applicant. So this shows, you know, as far as I can tell, the building that they are seeking approval for.
Right.
So Mike, it's Paul.
Yeah.
That's 39 Knott Highway.
Yes, that's 39.
911 address for that building you're showing me right now is 39 Knott Highway.
Correct.
Well,
The difference there, Mike, is that you see the lot on the corner to the left. That's the Exxon gas station and the intersection of 44.
Yeah, well, I'll have to talk with the town clerk, because as you can see here, since 2007, this map has been filed and everything has been indexed as 55. So this is a record keeping issue that I need to talk to the clerks about and figure out how the heck that happened. But
so that's fixed.
I recognize that, Mike. There probably is a bookkeeping error in the office.
So I guess Mike and Jeff, my concern was that given this, like I said, I have no personal opinion either way on this. I mean, I'm in favor of business in town, so I guess that is my opinion. But from my position as the fire chief, there's a problem here in I guess the record keeping, as Mike said, but also just that I don't know that the commission has all the correct information, because if you were looking at this particular building versus the next building over, there are differences. There's access differences, there's parking differences. So from a professional standpoint, I think that those concerns need to be addressed correctly before you can move this forward. That's just coming from me, the way I see it.
No,
I
I appreciate that, Paul. I'm sorry.
I'm certainly, we're all certainly very much available to speak about parking and access and the facility at 55 Knott Highway. Again, I'd like to thank Chief Varga for pointing out the record-keeping error, but I'd like to reiterate to the commission and to the public that we are not commencing any exterior work. I can speak substantively. There's at least 40 parking spots for the 55 Knott Highway location that we plan on operating at. We definitely do not need 40 parking spots in my experience at Verano. Moreover, the location that we're talking about for 55 Knott Highway, we would be the only tenant in that entire anchor spot. So there's no one else that would be utilizing the space. We don't have any concerns about access or egress. There's both ingress in and egress to and from Knott Highway separately, with 40 parking spots and no other tenants on site. So with all of that being said, and the fact that we don't plan on doing any exterior modifications, I am respectfully renewing my request for a waiver from the site plan requirements because they are not applicable to the commission's oversight and proper delegation or decision-making of our special permit application. Thank you.
I can appreciate that, Mr. Ewing. And at that time, if we had the right plans in front of us, even though there's no exterior changes going on, if we had the right plans in front of us, I was inclined to grant all of those things. As you said, it's an existing building and such.
Right.
But we're also very cognizant of regulatory issues and making sure that we are dotting our I's and crossing our T's. I'd like to, I don't know what you would call this, put a pin in this for right now, move on to any further public comment.
Sure.
Come to the end of that, come to your final statement as the applicant, and then we'll go from there as to how we're going to continue for the hearing or not. Okay? Any other public comment? Let me go over here. I don't see any hands.
Yes. Hi, this is Christina.
Christina,
Nowakowski. Yes, from
I'm sorry, I'm talking over you. Your last name, Christina?
Nowakowski,
Nowakowski. Thank you.
Bevington Road. And I just wanted to say that I think this plan is wrong and is immoral, and it's wrong for this town and for the children of this town. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comment. Any other public comment? Go back to the hands. Luther, I noticed you're off mute. Did you want to say something?
No, that was simply an error on my part.
Oh, no problem. No problem. Usually it's the other way around. Okay. Seeing no further public comment being raised, we'll throw it back to Mr. Wright, Mr. Ewing, and Mr. Hart for their final comments.
Great. Well, I'd like to thank the town and the residents for their feedback, and thank you for the commission and the planning director for taking the time to meet with us and hear our special permit hearing application tonight. I understand that there was an erroneous error with the site plan, well, even though it was properly titled or improperly titled as 55 Knott Highway, which we utilized for this site plan application. I would like to again reiterate that this facility is a retail level renovation on the interior, and that a site plan is not necessary for the commission's proper oversight and administration of our special permit hearing application. That is expressly provided for within your ordinance. that you are able to make that decision, which is why we made those express references to certain waiver requirements. I believe that that applies overall as well. We would greatly appreciate the commission's consideration and grace in allowing us to obtain a special hearing approval to become a part of this community. As you can see, we made sure to have our director of regulatory affairs, our policy director, and our construction manager, and then I'm also responsible for the lawful operation of all of our stores nationally. We take these obligations incredibly seriously, as you can see from our application. We are real people that want to hire Ashford residents. We would love the opportunity to be a part of your community. And again, I just want to thank everyone for their time and renew my request for a waiver and seek a renewed approval to have a special hearing or a special permit to operate within the town of Ashford. Thank you again very much for your time today.
Okay, again, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for the completeness. And I think we somewhat owe you an apology also for the erroneous site plan that was provided to you for that, and we will investigate that. And speaking to the commission now, I am not that I don't want to put at least one of these hearings to bed, obviously, but I am hesitant to close the hearing until we have the proper documentation, whether it was us or whether it was them. I'd like to have this tied up neatly before rendering a decision. Not to influence anyone, but that being said, is there a motion to continue the hearing?
Motion to continue.
Is there a second? Not hearing a second?
I'll
Okay.
second.
Oh,
I'll second, Tom.
Tom. Okay. We have a second. Is there, if you are in favor, we might have to do this by name. If you're in favor of continuing the hearing, I'm sorry,
Discussion, Jeff.
discussion, go right ahead.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what I was trying to look up quickly and was unable to look up quickly enough before the motion, which was entirely appropriate, is if there are compliance concerns from the perspective of the application, do we have minimum standards for parking that would be demonstrated by utilizing the appropriate site plan? I guess my question is,
I understand.
what are we seeking to clarify, prove, or disprove by continuing the public hearing until we can view the site plan? Is there something that's compelling on the site plan that it warrants leaving the public hearing open for?
Okay, let me just be clear, and if I didn't capture this, I'm sorry, Mr. Ewing.
Yes, sir.
The narrative that you put together, speaking of traffic, egress, movement of the movement of traffic and things like this, was that based on the site plan you had in your hand? Or was it based on other turn the lights on, keep the lights on.
Sorry.
That's okay. Or was it based on the actual viewing and sighting of the location that you're looking to move into?
The latter, sir. Everything was based off an on-site assessment by Aiden and his team. The site plan itself, sir, we wrote that entire document, the 33-page document. We wrote that entire document, and then we added the attachments to the site plan to it after we had received it from the town. So the site plan, that was an attachment for us to make sure that we were maintaining compliant with the expectations from the Ashford Planning Department. So no, none of that, none of our narrative, none of our build out, none of it is related to the site plan itself. That site plan was originally provided to us as stamped from 2007. So ingress and egress, 40 parking spots, how we would operate, the security and surveillance that are all going to be scoped out, and then also the floor plan itself, which is at the very end of that of our package, sir. that is completely accurate, relevant, and relative to the location itself. And Aiden walked it personally and can speak about it, sir.
Is there anything you want to add to that, Mr. Wright?
Substantively, our building plan set will accurately indicate this property. I received the review set on Monday, and I opened it up here. On the front page, it does accurately point to the 55 knot highway, and we would hope to comply with Paul's team and the fire department to make sure we're accurately representing this property moving forward.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that.
The site plan within this application, sir, was an attachment we provided that was not based. We didn't utilize any of that as part of our analysis.
Understood. Luther, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to point out, I did notice that their Exhibit F, as indicated in their application for their setback analysis, is actually tagging the correct building.
Yes.
And portraying it as the building that they're applying for and not the Pith Properties building. So I did want to.
And the floor plan itself, as Mr. Wright pointed out.
So I guess the question I have in terms of, or the discussion point I wanted to have commissioners weigh in on was to what end would the inclusion of the correct site plan inform our debate and decision-making process?
Right.
Mr. Chairman?
Identifying that. Yes, Jerry.
I'd like to withdraw my motion.
You were reading my mind, Jerry. Okay. I don't think
second has to withdraw also.
Pardon me?
The second has to withdraw also.
Okay, I withdraw.
Okay, so that is off the table. All right. So is there, I'm looking for a motion to close the hearing.
Motion to close.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Tom seconds. Although in favor of closing the hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed to closing the hearing? Abstentions? So moved. Okay. The hearing is closed. Gentlemen, thank you very much. We will be having discussion as per the next items on our agenda coming up regarding your hearing. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your presentations. And again, I think most of the members were very impressed with the thoroughness right up into the site plan, which again falls on both of us, it sounds like. So again, thank you very much.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
We appreciate your time.
All right. Moving on to no unfinished business, we move on to new business. The hearing for PZ 24-3 has been continued, so we'll have no discussion on that at this point. Moving on to item B, PZ 24-4, the special permit application for section 300-39 for cannabis hybrid retail facility at 55 Knott Highway. Owner Olympic Properties Group LLC, applicant Verano Holdings LLC / Zenleaf. We are open for discussion. Any thoughts, commissioners? Anything you want to share?
Jeff, can I jump in really quick?
You sure can, Mike.
I just want to review a couple of things that come from our regulations that if the commission were to move in the direction of considering an approval of the application would be essentially tied conditions of approval. There would be 4. They come from our regulations. If everybody's looked at them, I can skip, but if you'd like for me to go through them so everybody can understand what they are, I'd also be happy to do it.
No, please go ahead, Mike. Thank you.
Okay, so so the Connecticut General Statutes, I guess I could say in my experience with reviewing these operations, there's similar operation in Willington, there's one in Tolland. We haven't had this problem, but statute allows for the first 30 days that the operation is open. If there are any costs associated with like traffic, for example. I know it'd be a little bit funky here because we don't have local police, but if for some reason there was a traffic issue in the first 30 days and we needed the state police to direct traffic or whatever, any of those costs we would then bill to the applicant. That is allowed by statute. I've not heard of it being done, but statute allows for it. We have sort of a standard condition which requires that the applicant and operator continuously maintain all necessary state of Connecticut approvals. So they need Department of Consumer Protection licensing for the hybrid operation. And so this requires that they maintain that. It's just a bit of a checks and balances so that if something happens and they fall out of approval with the state, they become non-compliant with their local approval. Again, I don't expect it to happen, but it's in there. The other piece is that, you know, at least the way that the first rounds of licensing were going with the state is that they were required to demonstrate to the DCP that they had local approval before they could obtain final approval from the state themselves. So what this requires, condition 3, is that the local approval, should it be issued, is not considered fully executed until they provide a copy of their final license from the state. So if a year from now or whatever, they have not obtained approval from the state for the operation and they haven't sought an extension from us, then their local approval goes away. And that was established to prevent people from sort of land banking their approvals and saying, okay, well, we've got this locked down, but we have no intention of actually operating the facility.
What was the time frame on that, Mike? 12 months?
So they have to provide it within 6 months or seek an extension.
6 months. Thank you.
So they can seek an extension, but they have 6 months as the first time frame.
Yep.
And that they can't begin any sales, operation, advertisement, etc., without a valid or current license and executing the local permit. So, you know, they could certainly begin renovation, but they cannot open to the public for the retail or the medical until they have both of those approvals. I looked through some recent approvals that I had been involved in other communities to see if there was any other conditions that might be appropriate. The only one that kind of may apply, but I think we're covered because we've already got it, is we required for basically fire marshal and fire safety that they provide a copy of their interior fit out floor plan so that staff on our side knows how the building will be laid out, as far as where security will be, the vault, et cetera, but we already have that. So it's not to say you may believe there are other conditions, but those are the standard ones that would come from the regulations.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, that gave people plenty of time. Yes, Nord.
I think that people can, if people want this product medically or any other reason, they can go to Willington and get it at the store that's there without any hardship.
I don't know. Mike, do you know if Willington is a medical supply?
Willington and Tolland are both retail only.
So the medical issue isn't covered for those folks requiring medical supply. Other comments? Come on, guys, this is the time to talk about it.
So when he means retail, that's just for recreational use?
Correct.
I have no idea how many people in Ashford use it for medical reasons. Where is the nearest one that has medical marijuana? Anybody know? I have no idea.
Off the top of my head, no. Yes, Luther.
Hey, Jeff. So just to try to further dialogue. From the materials presented from the public hearing, from my understanding of our specially permitted uses, so this is a specially permitted use. This isn't something that, the decision to allow this business type in town was determined by adopting this as a specially permitted use. And so the commission has already decided that this is a specially permitted use in the town of Ashford. So that's not the debate for tonight. The debate for tonight is this application compliant with the terms outlined for the regulations that set the terms under which that use can be pursued?
Right, 300-39, yes.
So from my reading and understanding of the application documents, from Mike's gracious resummary of the conditions that we would associate with an approval, and from the basis that this company operates from, I mean, everything seems to be in order to be held compliant with what we've outlined as a specially permitted use.
Thank you, Luther. And Doug.
Thanks, Jeff. So I was thinking along the lines of what Luther was just saying as I'm rereading through the regulations and comparing them back to the application that I've read multiple times. The one thing that I'm not following is in Exhibit F, the setback analysis. I don't see a scale, so I don't know what the green and the red circles represent. Is that trying to capture the 500 and 1,000 foot, for lack of a better word, I'll call it setbacks relative to our regulations associated with such an establishment needs to be within a certain minimum distance from child daycare facilities, parks, playgrounds, etc. I'm referring to 338.1 section D1A. I'm just trying to relate it, Exhibit F to that regulation, that aspect of the regulations.
May I provide clarity, commissioners?
Please do.
Thank you. Yes, Commissioner, I appreciate the question. That's
Well,
certainly.
I just want to jump in. I know the hearing is closed, so unfortunately we can't take it from him.
I was going to say that I wish that I had thought to ask that during the hearing, because that's our time for discovery.
Yeah, I know. I apologize.
So if
Mike,
slow.
even for clarification on a document as part of their application,
so
we can request that of them.
No, but can we ask Mike to clarify that for us, because he probably understands the application materials?
Right. So you can ask questions of staff, but you can't basically ask the applicant to include anything further.
My
So,
mistake,
yes.
Mr. Ewing. I'm sorry. Mike, might you be able to shed a little light on the green and red circles?
Yes. So if you look in page 1, when they talk about what each exhibit is, they're calling this the compliant setback analysis. And so the intent there is to show those two requirements which come out of that.
Okay.
Trying to pull this section there.
Yeah, it's listing a 500 and 1,000 foot number. So it looked like it, but there's no scale. So I'm used to looking at documents that have scales. Sorry, I'm an engineer.
Yeah, if you look at the distance, the green rings are exactly twice the size of the red.
Yeah.
And so I think it's listed in the material written as to what that is, but yes, there is no title on it, but that is what it's demonstrating compliance to.
Let me reread. Thank you, Mike.
Mike, what What write-up are you talking about that's listed in?
In the zoning regulations that the commission.
Oh,
for the
I'm sorry.
use.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at their document. Yes, okay.
So
Thank
we
you.
have,
Yep,
we have
yep.
specific requirements. Okay.
I am on board. Thank you. Okay, so asked and answered for you, Doug?
I think so. I know the answer to that regulation, knowing the town. I'm just trying to make sure the documentation follows. Because the documentation will go on record, it'll be book kept, et cetera, et cetera. Give me some time. Let me reread through this again from the top.
Well, Ashford's not that big, so I think if you can find a 500-foot distance to anything else close to that, it falls under here. I think we're good.
And the only other thing that I would mention is it's customary, you could, if you wanted it to be updated, you could issue an approval with a condition that the setback analysis plan be amended to show the distances, just so that it was in the record. You could definitely do that if you felt like that would be helpful.
Yeah, I hear you, Mike. I'm kind of thinking along those lines, especially associated with the site plan, just from, again, the documentation perspective. Because then the site plan also ties out with the internal build out plan that's in Exhibit I. So I think there's some documentation that would be beneficial for us to request for long-term record keeping. But I'm going to keep reading this.
I'm just putting some notes down here. Excuse me a second.
It could be a restriction on being within 500 feet of a school or playground, or 1,000 feet from.
It says all that in our requirements.
Yeah. So there's no schools around there.
But I think what we're looking for is for the documentation that's provided to have what those circles actually mean to us.
Here, Jeff, I'll just be straightforward then. I would like documentation to accompany Exhibit F associated with what the circles represent. Personally, I think this is compliant to the 1,000 feet and the 500-foot requirements. Because the nearest park is certainly, and school and playground and school and church is certainly not within 500 or 1,000 feet of this property.
So you're basically identifying that the requirement is compliant. You just want to have it documented in a way that details it, associating a legend with the graphic representation.
Yes, please.
I think that's a fair and appropriate request. I'm not an engineer like Doug is, but I always think that if you can have a place on your map or document to reference what it is saying, then it's less likely to be misinterpreted.
And Lord knows we haven't had any misinterpretation tonight on that, so.
But I agree with, or I don't know that Mike was taking a position, but I like the concept of Mike's usage of a conditional approval and just having that be a fifth condition in alignment. If the commission were to vote to approve, that would be the fifth condition of an approval, that we just get a revision that provides the detail for that scheduled attachment. At least I personally would be comfortable with that.
Okay,
Any other commission member input?
same. Same as Luther.
Okay, seeing none, Mike, do we need to make, should the commission do an approval on this application? Do we need to do anything separate for the requested items of, to be waived? Or would that be
So-
captured in our overall motion?
So I've been taking notes on the comments and I have included what would be a finding that would cover that. Does that make
Are you
sense?
speaking to just the graphic circles, or are we talking about the other 4 or 5 items that were requested?
No, I'm speaking to the request for the application waivers.
Okay, all right. Yeah, sorry, 6 items. Okay. Okay, we are at do or die time. We've done our discussion here. No one seemed to be offering up any further discussion. So I'm going to request a motion to accept the application of Willowbrook Stratford LLC and Zenleaf for opening a hybrid cannabis dispensary in Ashford at 55 Knott Highway. Is there a motion to approve?
Do you want me to share what I have?
I would
Sure.
like to hear that. That would be
Sure,
helpful.
the whole thing? Sure.
Well, I'm going to share it. I can, or do you want me to read it or both?
Whatever you want, whatever's easier for you.
All right, I'm going to read it and I'll bring it up.
Yeah, please share, Mike, while you read it.
So let me know if I've missed anything. Or if it's not big enough. This approval is granted subject to the following conditions, each of which the commission finds to be integral to the approval. Findings, the commission finds the application complete and deems approval of the requested application waivers to be appropriate. Conditions: 1, for up to 30 days after opening of the retail location, the town may charge the applicant retail for any necessary reasonable costs incurred. I lifted it from Willington, Ashford. In accordance with I want to get the right statutory reference, 22A or 22G. The applicant operator shall continuously maintain all necessary approvals required by the state of Connecticut for the duration of the operation. The conditional approval shall not be considered fully executed until a copy of the state issued license has been provided to the land use office. Such approval must be filed with the town within 6 months of the issuance of the special permit. And then there's the provision, which is verbatim from our regulations for the extension. Number 4, no operation, sales, or advertisements shall commence without a valid current license from state and fully executed special permit. 5, this is included in our regs, but I want to make it clear because, again, trying to just create a correct breadcrumb trail. The commission is not approving signage. Signage for this is regulated locally, but there are also more strict requirements through the state's process regulations. So 5 says signage shall require a separate permit, which is our standard process here, and be in compliance with all local and state requirements. And then 6 is what Doug had mentioned. The applicant shall update the setback analysis plan to demonstrate compliance with 300-39D, which is the separating distance section that comes from the reg.
I think you captured it.
And just to make sure that we are covering everything so everybody is sort of up to speed, the regulations currently require that our regulations cover the parking plan, the hours of operation, the floor plan, which, as I said, we have, the security and access, which they provided. We touch on the odor and mitigation, but all of those things come out of the regulations. So we don't need to include all that as conditions because it's in the reg and they have to comply with the reg on an ongoing basis anyways.
Right.
So, okay. And Mike, from a best practices or compliance, from a compliance perspective, should the motion be read into to include all of the language that you're sharing currently?
Yeah, I think you can reference, you know, the motion with one finding and 6 conditions, and then you can work on it from there. You don't need to reread them. It's going to be captured in the recording.
Then I would move to approve the PZC 24-4 special permit application pursuant to the one finding and 6 conditions as referenced by our planning and zoning enforcement officer.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jerry. All those in favor of approving the motion as long expressed and Mike has captured?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Abstentions? Motion carries.
Thank you, commissioners. We really appreciate it.
Gentlemen, thank you. I'm sure Mike will be in touch with you regarding the site plans and such like that, and providing you with what we've captured for any further requirements that we're requesting in order for the motion to the application to move forward.
Certainly, that will be immediately addressed, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. All right, moving on to the zoning officer's report, which we would go into executive session because Mike has something to share with us regarding litigation and enforcement. So, Mike, what's the magic on this? I haven't done an executive session in a while, besides the fact of the rules behind it. I know that. I'm just saying, how do we get to it? Do you just do your magic?
So you'll make a motion to go into executive session at a specific time. When that motion passes, I'll pause the recording. Everybody on the commission will be dumped into a separate room.
Right.
And then when we come back out of executive session, we'll adjourn the meeting.
Okay, very good. I'm seeking a motion to move into executive session.
Motion to.
Jerry moved, seconded. Is
I'll
there a second?
second, Jeff.
I'm sorry, Doug seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Abstentions? So moved to executive session at 9:34.
All right, so just give me 1 second. I'm going to assign you all to a room. You should get a pop-up, and I'm going to pause the recording. So.
We're back, Valerie. Okay, we are back from executive session at 9:55 p.m. Last piece of business is to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second? Second from Nord. Luther, Nord, thank you very much. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, gentlemen. It was a long night. A lot of activity to work on, and I appreciate your attention and your input.